Hello there, guys, and welcome to That Anxious Gamer. Today, we're going to be doing a movie review of The Little Mermaid, the 2023 film. This film is a recreation of the 1989 classic animation by Disney. I want to give you my thoughts on the film, an overall overview of the film, and pros and cons of the film. By the end of this review, my hope is that you can decide if you want to go see the film yourself, as well as understand if you're the target audience that the film is trying to go for. We're going to start out by looking over some of the film's features as well as who's starring in the film. The director of the film is a man by the name of Rob Marshall, and the stars of the film are Haley Bailey as Ariel, Melissa McCarthy as Ursula, Jonah Hogg King as Eric, David Diggs as Sebastian, Javier Bardem as King Triton, and Art Malik as Sir Gimsley. The target audience for this film, in my opinion, is kids and teens, any fans of musicals in general, and anybody that enjoys a lighthearted rom-com or love story. The people that may not like this film are actually the fans of the original 1989 film, as there are some pretty big differences between the two films. The pros of the pros of the 2023 film, in my opinion, are that it has very strong singing and dancing. If you are a big fan of singing, dancing, or musicals, you will really like this film. I think it does an incredible job, especially Haley Bailey as Ariel. Almost all the Ariel-based songs are really good and honestly were really enjoyable to listen to. In my opinion, the strongest core performance in the film is Daveed Diggs as Sebastian. The voice of Sebastian in generally any scenes that he's in is incredible. I really love the character. I think it's an absolutely amazing character in terms of humor, and it really is going to get the kids to love this crab. And pretty much anybody who watches is going to be a big fan of Sebastian. Another big pro of this film is that it has a really strong villain, which is played by Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. Ursula in this film has huge advantages over a lot of other Disney villains in the live action series. For instance, Lion King and Aladdin, in my opinion, had fairly weak villains, and that hurt the dynamics of the film overall. In this situation, Ursula does an absolutely fantastic job of maintaining dynamic tension and giving a believable but funny and just the right amount of evil. Not cartoonishly evil, but overall very, very good. Another good thing about this film is that the good chemistry between the lead actors. Haley Bailey and Jonah Hogg King have good chemistry, and the love story is fairly believable, which is a real positive, and I think helps the film sell itself to the audience. One of the best things about this film, in my personal opinion, is it has a good core message for children and teenagers. This is a film about inclusive communities, and you really feel that throughout the whole film. However, it really is a balanced film, and I don't feel like changes were made for the most part that were not helping the film actually achieve its goal. This is a strong adaptation of the 1989 film that differs itself in quite a few ways. Not only culturally, but I think the film itself is a good adaptation in that they realized certain things that worked in animation just couldn't work in live action. And so they made changes that overall helped the film to thrive. Some things that are neither good or bad, but you do need to know, are that there are a lot of changes compared to the original film. I'm not going to go through an extensive list of these changes, but be aware that the casting was dramatically different, and that may be something that may not resonate with everyone. Also, the length of the film is a big problem for a lot of people. This is a 2 hour and 15-minute film, which, in my opinion, looking at a movie targeting kids and young teenagers, is quite long. I personally love longer films, but I want you to be aware of that because the runtime did feel slightly exaggerated, and I think it may have felt better in the 2 hour bracket. Another thing about this movie that is kind of neither good nor bad, but is something that you need to know, is that it's an ensemble cast film. there are so many actresses and actors in this film, and that may hurt your opinions of the film or help. On one hand, we get a lot of great performances. On the other hand, our main characters don't get to spend as much time together, and therefore the love story feels a little bit weaker compared to the original The Little Mermaid. On to the cons. The biggest con, in my opinion, to the film is Eric. Eric, no disrespect to Jonah Hogg King, but I feel was a big weakness to the film, and so did my wife as well. My wife felt that he was just not that great in his portrayal as Eric, and I felt the same thing. It just felt like he was a little bit carbon copy. It felt like he was kind of just filling the role, but there didn't feel to be that much expression or emotion from him as the prince, and his role kind of felt not very believable, in my opinion. The next thing that's a negative to the film and may upset certain viewers is, especially in the underwater kingdom, there are certain things that just don't make sense, and you have to kind of suspend disbelief. For instance, the family of King Triton. King Triton's wife, which we apparently realize is one woman, has died before the beginning of the film, apparently due to humans, although we are never really given much details about this. The problem with this is that even though he has seven daughters throughout the Sea Kingdoms, each daughter looks radically different, even though they're all supposed to be from one mother. This may be something that turns certain fans off, as it causes you to stretch your disbelief. If it was that King Triton had multiple wives over the years and maybe he had a very long life, I think this could have been more believable. But you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit, and it feels a little disingenuous. Another thing that doesn't make a lot of sense in the movie is the island and the kingdom that were shown. It's supposedly somewhere in South America somewhere, it feels like, but it almost looks like England. And in terms of the wealth of the kingdom, it doesn't really make sense. We see ports where you have little dinghy boats and small fishermen's villages, but the kingdom feels very wealthy, and the prince can kind of just idle around all day, doing nothing while the queen walks around the castle. So you really have to turn your brain off in this type of situation, because if you really look at it in depth, they're talking about how the port and trade has been very poor lately, and yet the kingdom feels happy, all the villagers seem satisfied, and there doesn't seem to be any indication of the troubles with the underwater kingdom. Another thing that compounds this issue is the queen. The queen seems to kind of play dumb in the film. Her son's constantly going off, she forbids him to go outside the castle, but yet, even though it's a small castle, she seems to be none the wiser as he basically gallivants around with Ariel during the whole film. One thing that I felt that did work very well in the film was by taking Ariel's voice away, it kind of made body language and expressiveness a real strong point in this film. You really felt the love story in physical form. And even though I didn't think Eric was that great as a character, I do think Eric and Ariel had very good chemistry, and I feel that the film succeeded in this way. So right now, the film is sitting at 7.0 on IMDb, and my rating is going to be 8.1. I really enjoyed this film. In Dolby Digital, it was an excellent film to watch. Even though the runtime was a little bit longer than I would have preferred, I really think it was a strong, strong outing. And honestly, one of Disney's better portrayals of the live action series, probably behind my favorite so far, which has been Aladdin. But much better than other ones like Mulan, which was a total disaster in my opinion, and The Lion King, which was, in my opinion, fairly uninspiring and significantly inferior to the original animation. So I hope that helps, guys. I really enjoyed watching this film, and I hope this review helped you make up your mind about if you should go watch the film. I do recommend it if you're in the target audience and you have kids or teens, if you're a fan of musicals in general, or if you just want a light rom com love story, you're going to really enjoy this film, and I would highly recommend going to the theater. If, for instance, you were a fan of the original 1989 film and you really love the story as it was presented in that case, then you may not like this film, and this film may be a pass for you. So, hopefully, with that, you can make your final decision, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Thank you all, and I appreciate you.